The golden light caught dust motes, swirling above the arena floor, as the magnificent black stallion paced like a storm cloud, given flesh. His eyes, wild with defiance, held secrets buried in darkness, the same darkness that had swallowed Willa's father without a trace. What no one in the glittering auction house knew was that this wasn't just a battle of wills. It was the beginning of a reckoning years in the making. The Grand Reign equestrian auction hummed with wealth and whispers. Crystal chandeliers cast splintered light across the sanded arena, where Tempest Gale moved with dangerous grace, his obsidian coat catching every ray like polished onyx. He wasn't simply wild, he was untouchable, a living embodiment of fury wrapped in perfect equine form. Long, powerful legs, high-set neck, and shoulders that spoke of flawless breeding carried him around the ring as he rejected every human who approached. One by one, seasoned riders had tried to tame him. Some were thrown before their boots touched the stirrups, others never got close enough to try. The stallion had earned his reputation, and now the wealthiest buyers in Texas merely watched from a distance, both fascinated and afraid. In the VIP balcony, Beauregard Vexley's fingers tightened around his crystal tumbler. The billionaire breeder's jaw clenched as he surveyed the arena. The stallion had cost him millions, not just in money, but in reputation. Tempest Gale was supposed to be the crown jewel of his empire. Instead, he'd become an embarrassment. No one rides him. Someone murmured nearby. Some say he's haunted. The words hung in the air until a figure appeared at the arena entrance. The crowd fell silent as Willa Diro stepped onto the sand, her presence electric despite her unassuming stance. Her navy coat was crisp, white breeches unwrinkled, black boots polished to mirror shine. She looked like she belonged in European dressage, not in an arena ringed with Texas oil wealth and cattle fortunes. Yet there was something in her eyes, a quiet defiance, a hidden knowledge, that made the spectators lean forward. Tempest Gale turned, nostrils flaring, ears pinned back against his skull. His hooves sliced the ground as he faced her, ready to charge, ready to destroy as he had done with every human who dared approach. But Willa didn't falter. She moved with a rhythm that matched his breathing. Her hand raised with palm steady. No whip, no halter, just intuition and something deeper, something that pulsed beneath the surface of this seemingly simple interaction. "You know me, don't you?" she whispered, her voice barely carrying across the sand. The stallion didn't rear. He didn't charge. His hooves froze mid-step as his eyes locked onto hers. The entire auction floor held its breath as the impossible unfolded before them. Tempest Gale lowered his head, not in surrender, but in recognition. From the shadows near the edge of the stands, Finian Finn Marsh pushed his hat back, weathered face creased with disbelief. "That ain't training," he muttered. "That's blood." He hadn't seen Willa in over a decade. Not since the night fire had devoured Cormac Hawthorne's ranch and scattered everything the legendary breeder had built. But watching her now, facing the stallion bred by the man who raised her, Finn understood what no one else could. This wasn't the first time Willa and Tempest Gale had met. Willa's hand trembled slightly as it rested on the stallion's velvet muzzle. A memory flickered behind her eyes. A young girl running alongside a black foal through morning mist, laughter carried away by the wind. A memory before the flames, before the silence, before her world collapsed. Breaking the spell, she turned to face the judges and the hushed crowd. "I'll take the ride," she announced, her voice clear and strong. The words struck like thunder, sending ripples of disbelief through the audience. She hadn't just calmed Tempest Gale, she intended to mount him. In the far back, Astrid Monroe leaned into her livestream microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing something unprecedented at the Grand Reign auction. This isn't just a ride. This is a reckoning." As Willa placed her foot in the stirrup, her heart pounded with the weight of unspoken truths. Her father's voice echoed faintly. There's only one way to earn his trust, become part of his storm. She swung her leg over the saddle, settling onto the back of the horse no one could tame, suddenly aware that this ride wasn't about money anymore. It was about uncovering buried secrets, no matter how dangerous they might be. The silent arena felt suspended in time as Willa settled into the saddle. No applause broke the tension, just the collective held breath of hundreds watching in disbelief. Across the arena, a young official clutched his stopwatch like it might explode in his hand. 60 seconds. That was all she needed to prove herself. But one wrong move, and the stallion beneath her could shatter more than just her chances. Tempest Gale shifted his weight, muscles coiled beneath her like a spring loaded with years of distrust. His ears flicked back and forth, scanning for threats, but his focus remained locked on Willa's energy. She didn't grip the reins tightly, as most would. Instead, she let them rest light as whispers between her fingers, leaning slightly forward to murmur words meant only for him. "She's not controlling him." Astrid breathed into her microphone, zooming her camera lens closer. "She's communicating with him." The announcer's voice cracked through the heavy silence. "Time starts now." Tempest Gale exploded into motion, not with the chaotic fury everyone expected, but with breathtaking precision. His hooves struck the dirt in powerful, deliberate strides, each movement flowing into the next with liquid grace. Willa moved with him, as though they shared one mind, her body adjusting to his rhythm, without hesitation or fear. Dust spiraled around them like gold-tinged smoke in the arena lights. Each stride became a testament to understanding, not domination. Willa's face showed intense focus as horse and rider carved patterns across the arena floor that seemed choreographed rather than improvised. In the VIP section, Beauregard Vexley's expression darkened. His hand clenched the railing so tightly his knuckles blanched white. This display wasn't just unexpected, it was impossible. His gaze darted between the woman and the stallion, connecting invisible dots that the rest of the crowd couldn't see. "She rides like a ghost," someone whispered nearby. Vexley's jaw tightened. "Like a hawthorn," he muttered under his breath. As the timer counted down, Willa guided Tempest through a series of complex maneuvers that showcased his power and precision. This wasn't just a ride, it was a revelation, proof that the stallion wasn't broken or dangerous. He had simply been waiting for the right person to understand his language. 10 seconds remained when something shifted in the atmosphere. Tempest suddenly turned his head slightly, ears pivoting toward the VIP section. For a heartbeat, his stride faltered as his gaze locked with Vexley's. A ripple of tension passed through his powerful frame, a memory of pain, perhaps, or fear. Willa felt it instantly. Her hand moved to his neck, steadying both of them with gentle pressure. "Stay with me," she whispered. "We're almost there." The final bell rang out across the arena. Tempest Gale came to a perfect stop, his sides heaving with exertion, but his posture proud. The impossible had happened, and in the stunned silence that followed, a lone voice called out from the stands, "She rides like him," 3 simple words that carried the weight of history. The arena erupted not with cheers, but with stunned murmurs, the kind of reaction that came when witnesses confronted something that challenged everything they believed. Willa dismounted with fluid grace, her boots landing softly on the arena floor. She gave Tempest one final touch, whispering something meant only for him before turning toward the exit. But as she walked away, all eyes followed her, including those of Beauregard Vexley, who whispered urgent instructions to a stern-faced man beside him. Outside the arena, reporters swarmed like hungry predators. Astrid Monroe stood at the center, microphone extended toward Willa. "You just made history in there," she said, camera lights reflecting in her eager eyes. "Who taught you to ride like that?" Willa's smile was gentle but guarded. "My father did." The name remained unspoken, yet it hung in the air like thunder before lightning. Cormac Hawthorne, the legendary breeder whose mysterious disappearance had become whispered legend in equestrian circles. Later that evening, Willa returned to Tempest's stall. The stallion greeted her with gentle recognition, no trace of his earlier wildness visible. As she ran her hand along his sleek flank, her fingers discovered something unexpected, a distinctive scar partially hidden beneath his coat. "Where did you get that?" she whispered, tracing its unusual pattern. Without warning, a fractured memory surfaced, her father shouting in their barn years ago, a man with a distinctive ring watching coldly as a young horse screamed in pain, her younger self hiding in the shadows. "He remembers more than we do." Willa turned sharply to find Finn Marsh standing in the doorway, his weathered face grave in the dim light. "That's not just any scar, Willa," he said quietly. "That's where it all started going wrong." Her heart hammered against her ribs as understanding dawned. The ride, the $1,000,000 prize, the challenge, none of it had been coincidence. It had been bait, carefully laid to draw her back into a world she'd escaped. And now that she was here, powerful forces wouldn't let her leave, until they were certain their secrets remained buried. Night settled over the Grand Rain grounds, bringing with it a stillness that felt more threatening than peaceful. The distant scent of smoke drifted through the air, a haunting echo of the fire that had destroyed Willa's childhood home. She moved silently between the shadowed stalls, every sense alert. She wasn't just being watched anymore, she was being hunted. When she reached Tempest's stall, her blood ran cold. The padlock hung broken, the door ajar. Inside, the stallion stood tense but unharmed, his dark eyes reflecting moonlight, filtering through the high windows. In the corner of the stall, something caught her attention, a small wooden box half buried in straw. Inside lay a rusted horseshoe and a note. "You should have stayed gone." Heart pounding, Willa sprinted toward Finn's trailer at the edge of the property. The old trainer met her at the door, rifle in hand, his weathered face grim beneath the porch light. "They're moving faster than I thought," he said, ushering her inside. "Vexley never planned to let you leave with that horse." "What is he hiding?" Willa demanded, dropping the threatening note onto the table between them. Finn's eyes held decades of guilt as he pulled out a worn leather folder from beneath a floorboard. "Your father gave me this for safekeeping the night before he disappeared. Said if anything happened, someone would come looking someday." With trembling fingers, Willa opened the folder. Inside were breeding certificates, bloodline records, and a letter in her father's sharp, urgent handwriting. One sentence stood out, underlined twice. "If anything happens to me, follow the horse. He carries more than my name." "Tempest Gale isn't just a prize stallion," Finn explained, his voice low. "He's evidence of what? That Vexley built his empire on theft and forgery. Your father discovered he was falsifying bloodlines, selling mixed-breed horses as purebreds for millions. When Cormac threatened to expose him," Finn's voice trailed off, but the implication hung heavy between them. "I need proof," Willa whispered. The old trainer unfolded a faded map of the Hawthorne property. "Your father hid something here beneath the old training ring, something worth killing for." The midnight fog clung to the overgrown remains of what had once been the Hawthorne estate. As Willa slipped over the broken fence, every step felt like walking through memory, painful yet somehow familiar. Following Finn's map, she located a cracked concrete slab near the old round pen, burn marks still visible from the fire years ago. Kneeling, she brushed away debris until her fingers found a metal ring. With a hard pull, a heavy stone shifted, revealing a small cavity containing a steel lockbox. As she reached for it, a twig snapped behind her. A tall figure emerged from the darkness, broad-shouldered, face half hidden. The handler, the man from her nightmares, the one with burned hands who had been present the night her father vanished. Clutching the box to her chest, Willa bolted through the fog-shrouded grounds. Her lungs burned as she ran, but adrenaline pushed her forward. She could hear him behind her, silent, calculated, closing the distance with each second. When she reached her truck, the engine roared to life, just as a shadow swept across her side mirror. The headlights briefly illuminated his face, cold, scarred, expressionless, before he vanished into the darkness. Back at Finn's trailer, her hands trembled as she opened the lockbox. Inside were 3 items: a leather-bound notebook, a sealed flash drive, and an envelope with her name written in her father's hand. "If you're reading this, Willa," the letter began, "it means I failed to stop them. But you still can." The notebook contained meticulously documented breeding records and annotations. Her father had discovered Vexley's scheme, falsified lineages being circulated through elite auctions. Tempest Gale was meant to be the cornerstone of an empire built on lies, but Cormac had refused to participate. When he threatened to expose the truth, Vexley had moved against him. "This is enough to destroy him," Finn said, examining the evidence. "The entire auction system is built on purity and trust. If they find out Vexley's been selling lies..." On the flash drive were audio recordings, conversations between Cormac and Vexley, threats escalating to violence, and one final clip recorded days before the fire. Her father's voice was urgent, desperate. "If anything happens to me, the Stallion carries the truth. He's the only one who can prove what they've done." Suddenly Willa understood. The distinctive marking on Tempest's flank wasn't just a scar, it was a code. Her father had branded the Stallion with his true lineage, turning the horse into living evidence that could bring down Vexley's empire. Headlights swept across the window. Finn killed the lights with practiced speed. "They've found us," he whispered. Willa clutched her father's letter, a strange calm settling over her. "Then it's time the world learns the truth." Outside, car doors slammed. Heavy footsteps approached the trailer. Tomorrow wasn't just about justice anymore, it was about survival. Morning light spilled across the Grand Rain grounds, the golden rays unable to warm the chill that had settled in Willa's bones. She stood beside Tempest Gale, her father's evidence secured inside her riding jacket, the weight of truth heavier than any physical burden. They had escaped Vexley's men in the night, barely thanks to Finn's knowledge of the old service roads. Now, they had one chance to finish what Cormac Hawthorne had started years ago. "Are you sure about this?" Finn asked, concern etched across his weathered face. "Once you step into that arena, there's no turning back." Willa ran her hand along Tempest's neck, feeling the raised pattern of the brand hidden beneath his sleek coat. "Dad didn't raise me to run from truth," she said quietly. "He didn't raise this horse to carry lies." At exactly 10 a.m., Willa rode Tempest Gale into the main arena. This time, she didn't enter as a contestant, but as a messenger of long-buried truths. The grandstands were filled with wealthy breeders and investors, champagne flutes glinting in the morning light as they prepared for the day's prestigious auction. Beauregard Vexley stood near the judge's booth, an artificial smile frozen on his face as he chatted with potential buyers. When he spotted Willa, the smile vanished, replaced by a cold calculation that sent shivers down her spine. Astrid Monroe appeared at the center platform, camera already rolling, her live stream connecting to thousands of viewers worldwide. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "today's auction begins with an unexpected revelation." The crowd fell silent as all eyes turned to Willa and the magnificent black stallion beneath her. She took a deep breath, her father's courage flowing through her veins. "My name is Willa Dero, daughter of Cormac Hawthorne," she began, her voice clear and strong. 10 years ago, my father didn't simply disappear. He was silenced because he discovered a truth that threatened an empire built on deception. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, security guards shifted nervously, but Vexley held up a hand, stopping them from approaching. The cameras were watching. Any move against her now would only validate her claims. "Tempest Gale isn't just a stallion. He's evidence," Willa continued, reaching down to part the hair on the horse's flank, revealing the distinctive pattern branded there. "My father created a unique identification system. This mark contains encoded bloodline information that proves what many of you have paid millions for are horses with falsified lineages." Gasps erupted across the stand. Several prominent breeders rose to their feet, faces flushed with anger as the implications became clear. "I have proof," Willa said, holding up the flash drive. "Recordings of threats made against my father when he refused to participate in the scheme. Documentation of every falsified bloodline sold through these auctions over the past decade." Vexley stepped forward, his face a mask of controlled rage. "This is slander," he hissed, but his voice lacked conviction. "No," Willa replied, meeting his gaze. "This is the end of your empire." Security moved in, but too late. Astrid had already positioned herself between them and Willa, her livestream numbers soaring past 1 million viewers. The truth was out, impossible to contain. By afternoon, authorities had arrived. The notebook, flash drive, and Cormac's meticulously kept records were placed into official hands. Experts confirmed what Willa had claimed. The branding system her father created matched perfectly with the discrepancies discovered in Vexley's prized horses. Multiple auctions were suspended pending investigation. By nightfall, Beauregard Vexley had disappeared from his estate entirely, vanished just as Cormac once had. Only this time, the world was watching. In the quiet of evening, Willa stood in Tempest's stall, brushing his coat as stars appeared above the stable skylights. Finn sat nearby on an overturned bucket, a look of peaceful vindication on his face. "Your father knew you'd come back," he said softly. "That's why he entrusted everything to the one being he knew would survive, the horse that carried his legacy." Willa smiled through tears that finally fell freely. "He raised more than horses," she whispered. "He raised me to recognize that some truths are worth fighting for, no matter how deeply they're buried." The next morning, as dawn painted the horizon in shades of hope, Willa loaded Tempest Gale into her trailer. Reporters waited at the gates, but their questions no longer frightened her. The truth had survived, just as she had. She drove down the long dirt road away from Grand Rain, sunlight streaming through her windshield. Her family name had been restored. Justice, though delayed, had finally come. And Tempest Gale, the stallion no one could tame, now walked proudly beside the only person who had ever truly understood him. Not through force or dominance, but through a bond forged in shared pain and mutual trust. What had been broken was mending. What had been lost had found its way home. As Willa glanced in her rearview mirror at the horse whose spirit had never been broken despite years of misunderstanding, she realized that some rescues weren't about saving someone else. They were about reclaiming pieces of yourself you thought were lost forever.